It's time to take your seat in the front row with Mike Vaccaro. Here's your host, Mike Vaccaro.
Hey, thank you, Chuck, and welcome, everybody. Mike Vaccaro with you, as always, in the front row. Behind the scenes, it's JR Quitman, our creator, producer, and director. Our thanks to those of you who have been watching, listening, subscribing as well. You have helped the Bone Crusher Smith episode go to 10,000 views. We thank you for that, and certainly ask you to continue to watch, listen, and subscribe as well to this CLNS Media Network podcast. Well, we're up to episode number 56, back to football for that. Another Hall of Famer joins us here today, and it is Anthony Muñoz, an offensive lineman, grew up in California, played at USC through some injuries, eventually drafted third overall by the Cincinnati Bengals, played in 2 Super Bowls, had an incredible career, and doing some incredible things now in Cincinnati with his foundation as well. Great story, great career, a lot to get to here today. Let's get right to it. Our guest, episode number 56, Hall of Famer, Anthony Muñoz. Again, a Hall of Famer, such a great career that you've had. I want to touch on a lot of that, but we want to start at the very beginning for you. You grew up in Ontario, California, on the West Coast. Yep. What was life like for you? Take us back to, the early 1960s growing up out there.
Well, one of 5 kids. I had 2 older brothers, 2 younger sisters. My mom raised 5 by herself. She did everything. She worked 2 and 3 jobs. I mean, not just 2 and 3 jobs, but 2 and 3 hard labor jobs to provide for our, the 5 kids. Mom was mom, dad, and we knew she was the boss. It was one of those things. Never met my dad. Never will meet my dad. He was in and out of prison when I was growing up. My mom was one of 10, so we had a lot of aunts and uncles and cousins around. And at a young age, with my 2, I had 2 older brothers. One was 2 years older, and one's 8 years older. Since the last couple of years, I lost my one brother that's 2 years older than me. I still have the one that's 8 years, but they were baseball players, and that's what I took to. That was my childhood dream, was to be a baseball player in the major leagues. So at the age of 6, I started playing with both of them. By 7, 8 years old, I was playing pretty competitive baseball. At 9 years old, playing. I saw that God had blessed me in the baseball area, and so that was my childhood dream. So as long as I could play baseball during the school year, during the summer, but Mom taught us work ethic and responsibility. We had to, during the school year, in order to go out and play sports after school, we had to do our homework. And during the summer, in California, you can not only play 2 games, sometimes play 3 games a day. But we had to do our chores. She taught us how to be responsible, how to clean house, how to wash clothes, how to wash dishes, how to cook, how to iron clothes. So we had to do that, the 5 of us, to survive. So that was my childhood. Again, we didn't have a whole lot, never had a car, didn't have a whole lot financially, but it didn't matter because we had support, we were loved, and I could go out and play baseball whenever I wanted to, especially in Southern California.
Yeah, it's got to be great to have that great foundation, as you said, your mom and what she did for you. Do you still carry a lot of those things that she taught you through your life, even though you're older right now?
I really do. I mentioned work ethic. It's not like she sat her 5 kids down and taught us what work ethic was. All we had to do is watch her walk over the railroad tracks about 6 a.m. She was off to work. And when she walked back, 3, 4 o'clock, took a little rest, cooked dinner. That we learned work ethic, responsibility. Hey, like I said earlier, you want to play baseball, you want to play football, basketball during school or in the summer, you had to do your chores, you had to do your homework. Those are valuable lessons. I mean, the discipline of cooking for each other, of making sure we took care of each other, washing our clothes. And, she did a lot, but there's some stuff she couldn't do because of her work schedule. So, even now as a husband, as a dad, and now as a grandfather, work ethic, responsibility through my childhood, high school, college, pro days, and now I've been retired. I can tap in to what I learned at home from Mom and my aunts and uncles, and it's very valuable.
Well, again, it played a great role in your sports career. You talked about baseball. When did football start to become something that you gravitated to?
Well, I'd have to say I was a little disappointed at first because the strength on the baseball field was my arm. I was a third baseman pitcher from the age of 6, 7 through high school. So we played a lot of sandlot football out in the street in the fields, but I was a product of flag football. At the age of 8 years old, I played flag football from 8 years old to 13. That was eighth grade. And I was a quarterback because of the strength of my arm. And, so I had all these fast wide receivers and I could throw the ball a mile. So I played quarterback. So when I got to high school, I'd never played tackle football. So I figured my buddies are playing tackle football. I'm going to play freshman football. So the first time I put the pads on and I had the old 2-bar mask, I was going to be the freshman quarterback because that's all I ever played. Well, as I ran over to the quarterbacks, when they divided us up in position, the head coach looked at me and said, Anthony, what are you doing here? I said, Coach, I'm going to be your quarterback. He goes, nah, I don't think so. I said, what? I said, that's all I've played is quarterback. So I say it's a little disappointing because I had to go back in and see Henry, the equipment manager. He changed my face mask and he made me an offensive lineman. The first day I was a little upset. The second day it got better because I was probably one of the bigger kids on, not only as a freshman, but on campus. And I got to, I wasn't real aggressive, but I got to physically, kind of dominate some younger guys on the defensive side. And I started to enjoy the offensive line. So I have to say, freshman year, first year tackle, it didn't go very well at first. But as I look back, I think the freshman head coach knew something by putting me as an offensive defensive lineman.
Yeah, from disappointment to the Hall of Fame, right? He knew something. There's always a coach that knows something more than the kid does and certainly set you on a great path. Tell us about the recruitment. What was that like for you? Eventually you go to USC, you play for John Robinson there, the head coach. What was your recruitment like? This was back in the mid 70s.
Right. Well, I started getting heavily recruited. I started playing football my junior year. I'm 6'6", 290. I'm playing both ways. And of course, growing up 40 miles from the USC campus, watching those great USC football teams, I always had a dream of going to USC, not knowing that I'd ever get a chance because, financially, like I said, we didn't have a whole lot. And I didn't totally understand the scholarships and things like that. But it started my sophomore, junior year, and they started coming after me. And really, all the schools across the country did. But one of the things that I did early on, and I'm thankful I did, I look at these young men that, have all these schools that they're courting and they're considering. I said right away, I'm a big USC fan. If they offer me, I'm there, and I'm not going to take any other trips because if I take a trip to, let's say, Notre Dame, that's a trip that somebody else might have had that seriously considered Notre Dame. So I just said, when they started recruiting me and they came after me heavily, I said, this is a place I want to go. Being a football guy, at that time they were recruiting me to come to school and play football, but I wanted a chance to play baseball in college too, because in high school I was a 3-time All-State in baseball and 2 in football. So baseball was still the sport I was excelling in. And most of colleges use that as a recruiting tool. Hey, you can come here on a football scholarship, but we'll let you play baseball. That was something that USC did. That they had track record of letting guys do that. So that even added to the attraction of going to USC. So and you have to understand, you mentioned John Robinson. I did play 4 years for John Robinson, but John McKay started to recruit me. And I mean, he, had won the national championship in 72 and 74. And this was 75 when I was being recruited. So he started, but then he got the head coaching job at Tampa Bay. There was a little dead period there before they hired John Robinson. So you better believe UCLA stepped it up. They tried to come in and do a full court press. But once they hired John Robinson, the reconnection was made. It was pretty much sealed. So I mean, and I tell people, I don't know if it was because of the tradition of their football program or because of Traveler and Tommy Trojan, the big white horse, circling the track every time they scored. That was very impressive in that marching band. But, so I'm thankful that I went to USC. And, so it was one of those things that they offered me, and I said, where do I sign?
Yeah, such great tradition, as you said, John McKay to John Robinson. And then for baseball, Rod Dato, a Hall of Fame baseball coach, as you said, you were on that team. You were on the championship team, national championship team in 1978 as a pitcher as well. Do you remember those times fondly as well?
Yeah, vividly. In fact, the crazy thing about it, a lot of people have a tendency to look at my NFL career and think that there was accolades and pretty much decorated as a college player, which I wasn't. I had 4 years, 3 years. I had knee operations in college. I only played one healthy football season. That healthy season, I played baseball. They were going to let me play the entire time there, but because of injury, I played 1 year. That was actually as a freshman on the baseball team, but my sophomore year in school. And it just happened that was, I believe, Coach Dato's 11th or 12th national championship. I got to play varsity the whole year. I got to make all the trips, and of course, made the trip to Omaha, Nebraska, where we ended up winning it. And so it was 1 year baseball and 1 ring, but more importantly, were the relationships that I established and the opportunity to play for Rod Dato, who was an amazing coach, kind of like John McKay and John Robinson, with the guys they coached in college and the guys that went on to be very successful in the NFL. You look at the Major League Baseball players that Rod Dato coached, and it's a who's who of Major League All-Stars. So I was thankful I had that 1 year to play. And like I said, a couple of weeks ago at Super Bowl, we have a Merlin Olsen luncheon that we do every Friday before the Super Bowl. There's about 50 Hall of Famers, maybe anywhere from 700 to 1,500 people. And one of my college baseball teammates, Bill Boardley, bought a table, and I got to see some baseball players, guys that had played baseball in the major league sitting at this table. But Bill Boardley was our stud pitcher that year we won it. He only played 2 years at SC, and I like bragging on him. He was 26-2 in 2 years at USC, two-time All-American, number 1 pick for the Giants, pitched like 8-9 years in the major leagues. But I got to see him in Arizona Super Bowl week, and I've had a chance to stay connected with Bill. We've done some youth events, a couple in Mexico, some in Southern California. But yeah, I'm thankful I had a chance to play for, Hall of Fame football coach as far as I'm concerned, John Robinson, and a Hall of Fame baseball coach in Rod Dato.
And for a guy who grew up without that father figure, without your father in your life, were those guys that you gravitated to and even learned some more life lessons from beyond what your mom taught you?
They really were. And you talk about John Robinson and Rod Dato, and my offensive line coach in college was Hudson Houck, who ended up coaching over 30 years in the NFL. But it's really interesting. We get back to the recruiting process, and I got to share this story. My senior year at Chaffee High School in Ontario, California, if I didn't have interest in USC, I think I would have gotten a little pressure because my head baseball coach, USC Trojan, the head basketball coach that had retired, I think my freshman or sophomore year at Chaffee was a USC grad, played basketball. The head track coach was a running back at USC. The head water polo coach was a USC grad, and a government teacher that I knew pretty well was a USC grad. So I had like 5 Trojans there on campus but I share that to say, when I was 7 years old, I met a gentleman that pitched on the 1961 USC National Championship team, who was one of those 5 I just talked about. I met him. He was a head of Parks and Recreation, and then I would play 3 years for him at Chaffee as a third baseman on the varsity baseball team, and that's Jim Seaman. He was a USC baseball player. He graduated, came and taught, was the Chaffee High School baseball coach for, I'd say, probably 30 years. And he was one of those guys that took a lot of us that didn't have dads that he coached and was that positive male role model. A great baseball mind, but he taught us how to do it right. So, yeah, coaches, teachers, college, high school, they filled in and really gave me that foundation that mom was setting at home in order to move forward and really, stay focused.
Yeah, all the guests we talked to, so many great benefits of sports in their life. As you said, the coaches, the relationships, guys that you played with in 1978, you just get reconnected with at the Super Bowl as well. And, let's go back to your football days at USC. As you said, you didn't have a great career because you were often injured.
Yep.
Was it when you look back at it now, is it a frustrating career for you? USC teams were good. They were going to the Rose Bowl, but you were often injured during those trips.
It was frustrating at the time. I'd be lying if I said no. But the things that I learned, because, playing 4 years of football, basketball, baseball in high school, 4 years, I can't remember missing a game because of an injury. So I was like, boom, 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 4 years. And then to get to USC and really go through my first major knee operation, but not only 1, but 3, it taught me that, first of all, athletics can be taken away in one play, as it was for me 3 out of 4 years. My freshman year, 9 games in the season. My junior year, 7 games into the season. My senior year, the second time we had the ball, the first game of the season. So it taught me that I really needed to focus on other things, school, getting my body physically stronger and in better shape, relational. I got married my sophomore year in college, so my wife and I really hunkered down, and it was her and I against the world, So there was a lot of lessons that I learned, and I look back, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I'm thankful that it worked out. But even if it hadn't worked out on the football field, I knew that I would be successful in whatever I did because of what we talked earlier, Mike, the work ethic, the responsibility, and just when something happens, getting yourself back up as we do in life. And I don't care how good of a football player you were or are now, everybody gets knocked down. And it's just a matter of how you get back up, brush yourself off, use the support team around you. Because I've met a lot of very successful people, and I've met some that they say they're self-made. But if they get an accolade, the first thing they do when they get up to receive the accolade is they have 2 pages of people they thank. And I think to myself, how can you be self-made if you have all these people that have helped you along the journey? So, but it's taught me a lot. It taught me a lot. And then once I got that chance in the NFL, it taught me that I had to stay on top of my conditioning and strength training and cardio and just take care of every aspect of my life. So as I look at, back to those 4 years, 3 Rose Bowl, I played in one. 1 full season. Guys that I played with, I had a chance to, block for a Heisman Trophy winner, 7 games, and I got hurt. Playing on a national championship team, 7 games, and I got hurt. So some of the things I got, I planned of doing when I was there, they didn't all happen. But I got to play in 1 Notre Dame and 1 UCLA game, which was a highlight because that's what you look forward to when you go to USC. But, just the relationships that I established there and the memories. And, of course, the main thing is the work ethic and the focus of getting yourself back when you've been knocked down.
Well, again, and you had a chance to get back senior season, go to the Rose Bowl against an undefeated Ohio State team. And running behind you, the late Charles White had a career night. Yeah. What was that like to finally play in that Rose Bowl and to see your running back have such a great performance behind you?
It was a highlight because, Mike, as we talked, I got hurt the second time we had the ball that first game. So I had surgery. I missed the entire season. And people had pretty much written me off. I had a chance to come back and get a medical red shirt. But I was determined to play in a Rose Bowl with guys that I came into school with. Keith Van Horn, Brad Buddy, Paul McDonald, Charles White, all these guys. And so I was like a madman, after my surgery, rehabilitating, because I knew coming off that national championship game, I knew we'd go back to a Rose Bowl because we were loaded. We were ranked number 1 again. And sure enough, we won the Pac-10 at that time. For the 3rd time, we're going back to our 3rd Rose Bowl. So I had to go in and convince John Robinson to let me practice and get ready to play that game because and I could see the concern missing the entire season, but I had worked so hard rehabbing. I was in such great shape, cardiovascular, strength-wise, that I knew I was ready, and the doctor gave me the okay. So I went through every single practice leading up to that game. And when the starting lineup was announced, they announced number 77, Anthony Muñoz, at 1 tackle for USC. And I think a lot of people scratched their head thinking, who in the heck is this guy? And we haven't seen him all year. But, to play in the entire game, I have to be honest, I think I took 2 plays off because I was almost hyperventilating. I was so excited about being in the game. And we had another pretty good offensive lineman come in and spell me for 2 plays. He was a freshman at the time. Pro Football Hall of Famer Bruce Matthews came in. He was a freshman. But then I went back in, and we were down, and we had to go over 80 yards that last drive to beat Ohio State. And I don't think we passed the ball once. We just pounded it, ran it. And then Charles White, who, as you said, the late, great Charles White, amazing, still the all-time leading rusher at USC. When you mention that, people are like, are you serious? Yep, the all-time leading rusher at USC still goes over. We win the game 17-16. And, again, that was a highlight for what I went through that year, 2 series and then play the entire Rose Bowl game. That was it just really helped out that whole 4 years of adversity to play in that one game. And I could say it almost was like it erased all that, but it really didn't. But at that time, after we scored in the locker room, it was like I forgot about all the, the rehab hours, all the time in the hospital, because we just beat the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah, time in the hospital, again, often injured in your career. But then you get drafted 3rd overall by the Bengals. Did you think you were going to go that high and even get drafted at all because of, again, the injuries that you had and maybe the risk that you were?
Well, after that Rose Bowl, all I wanted was a chance to go to an NFL camp to see if I could compete. I knew physically I was back strength-wise, and because I played the whole game, and I didn't feel that 3rd knee operation affected me. But then it was in the hands of the NFL teams. All the experts, all the pundits said before that senior year, maybe a top 5 pick. After that, he'd be lucky to get signed as a free agent. And they were saying, well, what a great way to finish a college career, a football career, to play in the Rose Bowl. Now it's time to move on and do something else. But, I continue to bust it there at USC with my buddies and finish school and, just do what I did for 4 years in the weight room with our strength coach. And hopefully somebody would take a chance. So Mike, I didn't know what was going to happen because, like I said, the experts were saying now, but I was saying all it takes is one team. And, of course, the Bengals had the third pick. Not in my wildest dreams that I think the Bengals would take me with the third pick. But you know what? When that phone call came that morning, April 29th, 1980, I'm thinking, this is unbelievable. Maybe they got the wrong number, but no, the head line coach got on and I met him in January. Yeah, he said, "You're our guy. We just drafted you." So I hung up the phone. I looked at my wife. We were in our 1-bedroom apartment and, just started to weep a little bit because I was just overwhelmed. After I kind of composed myself, I told my wife we're going to Cincinnati. And we both knew there was a third pick, but we also looked at each other and said, where in the heck is Cincinnati? But I'm thankful now because we know exactly where Cincinnati is. It's been home for 42 years now, going on 43. And I'm thankful for Paul Brown, Mike Brown, Pete Brown, the Brown family, that they watched that Rose Bowl January 1st as we beat Ohio State. And they felt confident enough to draft me. And so they drafted me, and my job was to make sure that I proved them right by their draft pick, because I know a lot of fans were probably scratching their head saying, what the heck are you guys doing? And so I wanted to make sure every time I put that uniform on at practice, and on Sunday I was there, and I missed my first game, my 11th year, week 15, my 11th year, when I got hit from behind by a linebacker, dislocated my left elbow, came back and played. But so that was one of the things that I would – after only playing one healthy year, I'd played almost 11 straight seasons without missing a game. And I just wanted to make sure that the Brown family knew that they had made the right decision.
Yeah, you missed, just 3 games in 12 seasons?
Yeah.
I mean, how, going from college to high school, again, all the injuries you had in college or to the NFL here, how did things change physically for you? How'd you stay healthy? How'd you make sure that you were on the field all those games?
Well, I think I look at the 3 times I got hurt in college, and every time I had a 300-pound lineman falling on my leg when I was planted. I was turning the corner, and somebody had a defensive back put his helmet in my thigh when I was jumping over a pile. So, again, you can say wrong place at the wrong time, but I was determined through my physical conditioning. I was a guy that ran year-round. I ran in the offseason. I might take a day off after my last game, if that much, and I'd continue running distance and sprints. During the season, Tuesday and Friday, I'd run Monday, Tuesday, and Friday, I'd run some distance in addition to, practicing and getting ready for the game. My strength conditioning, I was a weight guy, 3-4 days a week year round. So that was my way of saying, okay, I'm not going to finish the season, take a month, get out of shape, and then try to get back. I'm just going to continue to stay in shape. And that's one thing I did, for all 13 years is I trained year round. And I really believe that that's what kept me on the field every game. And, maybe it wasn't the case, but that's what I believed happened. And it was, that's one thing that I did. I just, if I'd go on vacation in the off season with my wife and kids, one of the first things I would do is I'd find a weight room, a fitness center, and I would find somewhere to run. And I would take care of that for a couple hours a day. Then I'd have the rest of the day with my family to vacation. But yeah, so I did that. Anytime I'd hit the road, it was I would find a place that I'd have to weight train and run, and I didn't take a day off. So I believe that was the key to me playing all those years without missing very many games.
Well, certainly, again, paid off for you, paid off for the Bengals as well. The Bengals coming back to the fold now in the NFL and making playoffs and playing for the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. But back when you guys played in a couple Super Bowls. Let's talk about those, if you will. Starting with the 1981 season, Super Bowl 16. Going into that year, what was it like around the franchise? And did you think this team had the makings to get to the Super Bowl?
Well, you look at both Super Bowls were kind of like bad years to Super Bowl. My second year, my freshman or rookie year, we were 6-10 as my rookie year with the Bengals. The 2 previous years at the Bengals, 78, 70, they were 4-12, 2 years in a row. They bring in Forrest Gregg. Even though we're 6-10 my rookie year, we could have very easily been 10-6. We lost several games late in the game. But then I can see things kind of changing. So going to my second year, not a bad first half. We're 5-3. But then the month of November, we're 5-0. We go from 5-3 to 10-3. I said, we're starting to build something special here. And then, of course, we got home field advantage. We end up, beating San Diego in the coldest game on record, the Freezer Bowl, going to Pontiac, Michigan, losing to the 49ers. So 81 season, 82. And I don't think anybody expected neither one of the teams, the 49ers or the Bengals. First time both of us were at the Super Bowl. And then I thought, heck, man, we got a pretty good team. This is going to be a, annual occurrence. Well, it didn't happen until the 88 season. Again, the previous year we were 4-11. It was a strike year, work stoppage. So we didn't do very well. Then we come back, 88 season, the same thing. We end up 12-4, home field advantage, get all our playoff games at home. We beat Buffalo in the AFC Championship. Now we're going to 23 down in Miami. The only bad thing is we're playing the 49ers again with Joe Montana. So, but both games were great games, decided by a goal line stand in 16 and a drive in 23, the 92-yard drive by Montana and his team. So, like I said, the previous year to both those Super Bowls, terrible years. And so I guess going into those 81 season, 88 season, not a lot of people gave us a chance to go to the Super Bowl. But I could see that these teams were transformed and we really came together both those years. So, I'm thankful that I had a chance to play in two. Would I've loved to win one or both? Oh, you betcha. Probably one of the most competitive people on this earth I am. But we didn't. So you move on and, you're thankful that you had that opportunity to play in two.
As you mentioned, Joe Montana, he was Tom Brady before Tom Brady, right? He was the guy that was winning those championships.
Yeah.
Was it just, oh boy, here we go again. It's a Montana-led team that you had to play in those Super Bowls. Was it just bad timing?
You know what? I didn't really I don't think we felt that way, either one, because we had confidence that we could win the game. And I think our team, we were very capable of winning it. There was just a couple incidents. The first game, it was his defense that ended up, they didn't do a whole lot the second half. They scored 6 points the second half, but it was their defense that stopped it. We were rolling. The second game, their defense did a good job. They moved the ball well, but it was Joe Montana in that offense. They drove 92 yards with, maybe 3 minutes, under 3 minutes. But going into the game, we knew it's a Super Bowl. It's the last two teams, so it's going to be tough. But it wasn't like, oh my goodness, we could have drawn somebody else besides Montana. That wasn't the sentiment for our team. We were just like, we were confident. We believed we could win the game.
And you said you just got back from the Super Bowl. So you played in the 80s, in 1982, 1989 Super Bowls. How has it changed? How has it become such a spectacle that it is right now?
Well, now it's kind of like, you go all week and, every kind of event, and they say, oh, by the way, there's a game on Sunday, isn't there? It's like, it's so there's so many people that come to the city of the game that don't even go to the game because of all the events. You can go to an event every night. There's multiple events all night, and the media coverage, and it's just amazing what happens in the city of the Super Bowl. And then, like I said, oh, by the way, the biggest game of the year is being played. So that's the thing. There's so many, outlets that cover the game. I can't even begin to tell you. Radio Row is so much bigger, or the number of publications, the networks and the other, people that are covering it. It's just grown so much. So much money is being spent on what's happening Super Bowl week.
And in those two runs, you mentioned your two coaches. Well, you mentioned Forrest Gregg. He played for Lombardi. He was your coach back in 1982, that Super Bowl. And then Sam Weiss, your head coach. I would think those two are different personalities. How do you compare the two at all? Do you think about those two and what they were like as your coaches with the Bengals?
There's no question about it. The sad thing is we've lost both of them. I love both guys. I love playing for both guys. Like you said, totally different personalities, totally different styles. Forrest Gregg was kind of like the ultimate CEO, where he had his two coordinators. They ran the offense, they ran the defense. He ran the team. He set the plan in place, and he was a no-nonsense guy. He treated the starting quarterback the same way he treated the backup center, so you knew you were all on the same page. A disciplinarian, where Sam Weiss, on the other hand, he was a brilliant offensive mind. He was so integral very important part of the offense. We had offensive coordinator, but you could say that there were co-coordinators, and Sam ran the offense, let LeBeau and Bola run the defense. And he was a little more relaxed type of guy. First time I'd experienced Wednesday practice installation day in a helmet and sweats. I'd never experienced that before under Forrest Gregg. It was always full pads, but it was a new era. Things were changing. But both guys were amazing. Like I said, not only did I love both of them as coaches, but as men, I love both guys. Close with both. Loved them both, and they did a tremendous job while they were coaching and while they were here.
Also, with those two teams, two different quarterbacks. It was Ken Anderson the first time, Boomer Esiason the second time. What was the difference for those two as you block for them and see what they're doing behind you?
Well, again, two different personalities, two different styles. Kenny Anderson was one of the most accurate all-time passers. Both of them were brilliantly smart. Kenny Anderson's smart, Boomer's smart, both competitive, where Boomer was a little more out front competitive, more of a bigger personality than Kenny Anderson. But Kenny Anderson led, by example and what he was doing on the field. So to really basically play for two head coaches and two quarterbacks in 13 years, so fortunate. One offensive line coach in 13 years. So very much stable in the key positions. But, both those head coaches, I'm very thankful that I experienced them as coaches and as friends. And I'll never forget the experiences I had with both.
Got to ask you about Ickey Woods and the sensation that he became. What was it like being around him, and certainly that time during the Ickey Shuffle?
Well, it was amazing because it was his rookie year. He came in from UNLV, and over 1,000 yards rushing. The guy had speed, power. A lot of things are made about the zone blocking scheme, but that's all we ran my time out here with the Bengals. And we had Ickey Woods, James Brooks, and Ickey ran it so well. And then, of course, the Ickey Shuffle started and became a phenomenon to the point where Paul Brown actually was doing the Ickey Shuffle at one time in a press conference. To get Paul Brown to do the Ickey Shuffle was huge. But, Ickey's still in town here. There's a lot of guys I played with that are still in town here. But I wish his career could have lasted longer. But it was shortened because of injuries. A lot of guys, that played in this league, they go through injury. I would have loved to block, instead of one great year, I would have loved to have been up front a multiple handful of years for Ickey, but it didn't work out. But that one year that he lit the league on fire, not only with over 1,000 yards, but the Ickey Shuffle and going to the Super Bowl, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, for you, a 12-year career, again, the injuries that you had in college, that's a long career, especially for an offensive lineman, very physical position where injuries occur a lot. Did it amaze you that you had as long a career that you did have?
Well, it actually was 13 that I played. But no, to me, it was like I felt if I stayed on top of my body physically and took care of it, that I could play. And I, one of the things I said to myself is when I drove down to practice, when I got to a point when I felt like I was going to work, I thought that was time to give it up. And that last year, my 13th year, I felt like I was going to work because I loved everything about the game. I loved the training. I loved practice. I loved the game. And it just felt like I was going to work. But, I think the last couple years maybe, but I felt like, when my 9th, 10th year, I still felt great. My 11th, because of the conditioning, I'd come into camp and I felt like I could run all day. Of course, you get banged up a little bit. Your shoulders start get banging up. So, the strength is compromised a little bit. But even that last year, I was probably in the best shape cardiovascular I was in the previous 5 or 6. But, I think, again, if you stay on top of your conditioning weight training, I think that's the key to longevity.
How about some of the tough matchups or guys that you liked going up against? Was there a lot of trash talking in the trenches during those days?
I can probably say out of 13 years, maybe one guy that trash talked. If there was any communication, it was all in fun on the bottom of a pile. But, most of the guys I played against were intense, tried to be physical, and that's what I love. Like I said, less than a handful of guys would talk, and I would just kind of wink at them and smile and ignore them. And I think that would get them upset because I wouldn't get involved in that type of banter back and forth. But, I didn't see, at least in my position, I didn't see a whole lot of guys.
Tackle eligible plays. You've had 7 receptions, 18 yards, but 4 touchdowns. Do you remember each of those touchdowns?
Like they happened yesterday. The first one up in Cleveland. Well, I was very surprised that Sam Weiss called it because it was first and goal. The one with 7 seconds, no timeout. First week he'd put that play in for me to be an eligible receiver. And I'm thinking this rookie coach doesn't want to coach in the NFL that long if he's calling a pass play to a tackle. But it worked out. I caught it, extra point. We went in overtime, and Jim Breach, 9 for 9, his career in overtime. We beat the Browns. Houston, a couple, Seattle. So, yeah, I remember them all. I remember different situations. I remember a couple situations where I did catch it, that I got a couple pass interference calls. One time we're in the Astrodome, and I was to hit the end and go to the pylon, and we snapped the ball, but there was a whistle, so I ran blocked my guy. I hooked him like I was run blocking, and Bruce Coslett up in the press box saw that. He saw that I didn't give it away, so we called the same play. I hit the guy, went, and we caught it. So, just kind of thinking fast on your feet helped out with a couple of them. I was in the corner, the back of the end zone, and there's no way Boomer could get the ball, so he threw it up high. I jumped up. I felt the linebacker on my back, so I stopped, and the guy ran over my back, and we got a pass interference, and we got to run it again. So, yeah, I think those two probably were as thrilling as catching the touchdowns, because I got a chance to do it again after they jumped off sides and after a pass interference call. So, but yeah, I remember all 4 Boomer Esiason. I got all 4 balls painted with the dates and the score. So yeah, I remember them like they happened yesterday.
So you're at the goal line after you get those touchdowns. Do you always say, "Okay, I'm a good option"? Did you go to Sam Weiss and say,
"I'm open"?
I'm open.
No, too much going on, but when they call it, you think you better catch it or they won't call it again. So it was fun.
As you said, a tremendous career at the Bengals. You go to camp, I guess, with Tampa Bay. What was that like? What going from the Bengals, that the entire career there, trying to restart it at somewhere else.
Well, the only reason I did is Sam Weiss was there. There were several teams that had called me, but Sam Weiss had the same offense we were running in Cincinnati. The offensive line coach in Tampa, Bob Wiley, and my coach, Jim McNally, were close friends. He was teaching everything that I was taught for 13 years. So it gave me a chance to go down there with some very young offensive linemen and just to get a chance to try something else. And they had talked about another position. I was a left tackle for 13 years. They were talking right tackle, maybe left guard. My last year at the Bengals, I volunteered and I played one game at left guard, and I was pretty comfortable having a guy on each side. So when he mentioned maybe playing left guard next to Paul Gruber, I said, that might be a good idea. That might extend the career another 3-4 years. But I just wanted 1 year to see some. But it ended, quickly. The last preseason game, making a tackle in a preseason game, tore my shoulder up. And I was like, it's time. It's time to move on. Clear enough picture. So went in and finished it up.
Yeah, I guess it made it, like you said, very clear for you that it was a time to hang things up and retire. But at the same time, was it difficult to do that?
Oh, you do something for over 20 years. And that's why I just kind of chuckle when somebody retires and then they unretire. People don't understand. As a golfer, you can retire, but then 10 years later, you can go out and play with your grandson. Basketball player, you can go shoot basketball. Football player, you retire, you can't wait 5 years and then put the pads on again and go in the backyard and do some one-on-one. It's over. So, I just wanted to experience it. So I tell guys, make sure you're completely sure, and it's beyond a shadow of a doubt when you retire, because when it's over, it's over. You got to move on. So I can say even the career I had, the number of years, the accolades, the 2 Super Bowls, the playoffs, the Pro Bowls, it's still tough because you've done it for over 20 years, but it doesn't take long to get over it.
Yeah, 9-time All-Pro first team, 2-time second team, 11 Pro Bowls, 1980s All-Decade team, 75th anniversary team, 100th anniversary team, and in 1998, you get the call to the Hall of Fame. What was that like? Tell us, take us through that moment when you found out you were going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Well, it's crazy just to talk about being up for the Hall of Fame. I'm thinking Deacon Jones, Bart Starr, Merlin Olsen, Jim Brown. Those are Hall of Famers. I played in the league. And it's like, but when that talk started, this will be my 25th year in, and I still pinch myself every time I go up to Canton and I'm around all the other Hall of Famers because of what I went through. We've talked about what I went through with my college career and the lack of playing time and stuff. To be in, and when I got that word, it was just like overwhelming, humbling, thrilling, and to know that I'm going to be on the same team with all these other guys forever. It never gets old. And like I said, I never stop pinching myself.
And it's great to be a first as well. You're the first exclusive Bengal enshrined in Canton, Ohio as well. What does that mean to you?
Well, it means a lot, but after it happens, you want other teammates. I mean, we got guys that are, that have the credentials to be in, and we finally this year, Kenny Riley's joining me. So hopefully, as the years go on, the next year or two, we get some more. But it's nice to be the first, but I didn't want it to be the only one. Because you look around, there's teams with 20 guys, there's teams with 30 guys, there's teams with 10 guys, and here we sat at one person, where I know we've had several that deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, and we finally get one this year. And Kenny Riley, who's amazing. It's just sad that he's not here with us to experience it. But his son, his family, his wife will get to experience in August, and I'm thankful for that.
Pro Football Hall of Fame, great honor. NFL Man of the Year in 1991 as well. I would think that has to rank up there with different things that you've been honored with. What does something like that mean to you? And the contributions that you've made in your community to earn something like that?
Well, first of all, now they renamed it the Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year, and to carry that name and to have received that award, you get a lot of accolades for your performance on the field, but this is something that has to do with who you are in your family, in the community, off the field, in addition to as a player. So that means so much more. It's because you're not a you're a total person as far as I see it. And when I received that, it was a great honor, and to be one of the many that have received, I look at the list, and to be in that fraternity is amazing too. And so I'm thankful for that. And to me, it's very, very, very important award that sits up in my family room with all the other accolades.
And having heard you here, it seems like that award is something that, is a product of your mom and what she does or did for you in helping raise you. Is that what you think of, who you think of in an award like that, and even what you're doing now with your foundation?
Well, a lot of people say pay it forward, but I think it honors those like my mom, like my coaches and teachers that poured into my life. It's one thing to pay it forward, but it's another thing to honor them. And I agree with that. It's the things that you were taught as a young man, things that you were taught in athletics by teachers in the classroom, and the accumulation of all that. So I'm thankful for my mom that she did what she did for 5 kids, and then the coaches and teachers that I've been exposed to.
Again, let's talk about your foundation here for a moment, the Anthony Muñoz Foundation. What do you do with that? How are you still helping give back in the Cincinnati community?
Well, it's 22 years. This is our 22nd year, Mike. We engage the tri-state area to impact young people mentally, physically, and spiritually. We have 8 programs, and we continue to roll everything from mentoring programs with elementary kids, junior high kids, overnight character camps with junior high young men. We have a youth leadership seminar. We're getting back to our numbers that we had pre-COVID. We just had, I think, 70-some high schools, full-day event. We have one day camp where we have young ladies involved, where we teach them character and teamwork, but also a little bit of football. And then we have 2 types of scholarships for seniors going to college. We have a straight A, which is a one-time $2,000 to $5,000 scholarship. Straight A, academics, athletics, attitude, achievement, but a big criteria is overcoming adversity. Then we have our big scholarship fund scholarship, which is a $20,000 scholarship. So, with those 8 programs, I figure we touch probably 25 to 3,000 young people a year that we get to work with. And this is our, our 22nd year, like I said. So it's a passion of mine. I have a great staff, a great board, a great corporate partners, and a great database of volunteers. So we'll keep rolling. How much longer? I don't know. I'm getting a little older now, but it's still a passion of mine.
How much is it of what you do on a daily basis working with this foundation?
Well, it's quite a bit. This past summer, there was a new job created at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and I went through the interviewing process, and I got offered the job. So I'm the Chief Football Relationship Officer of the Hall of Fame. So I'm doing that part time. I got the foundation. Of course, my wife and I are getting ready to celebrate 45 years of marriage, so we got our time. We got 9 grandkids. So other than that, I just kind of sit around wondering what I'm going to do every day. But it's the foundation is a passion of mine. It's something that I stay engaged with my staff and partners. And I'm here in the office, and we're getting ready for events. So I'm confirming things and making decisions on things that my great staff puts together. So it's still a thing when I'm in town. I'm still very engaged.
Well, 45 years. Congratulations on that. As you said, you got married in 78 during your playing career at USC. Can you elaborate more on your role with the NFL, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and what you do in that role?
Well, it's actually the Pro Football Hall of Fame. A lot of people call it the NFL Hall of Fame, but it's a separate entity. We're not tied to the NFL, but they do support it. They're like our big brother, so they give us a lot of support. The Pro Football Hall of Fame, like I said, it's all about relationships. I'm working directly with our new president, Jim Porter. We've been traveling around, meeting a lot of the NFL owners, corporate partners, non-for-profit. So it's a relational job, things I've been doing for the last 20, 25 years here in Cincinnati. Now I get to really represent everything that I love about the Hall of Fame, my fellow Hall of Famers, the staff, the board, the city of Canton, and I'm thrilled. So anything to do with relationships, media, sponsorship, I'm there trying to help out.
We were pleased to have another Hall of Famer, Walter Jones, on not too long ago, and your name came up when we talked to him, and he said he doesn't get starstruck much, but when he met you for the first time, he did. What does that mean to hear something like that with a fellow Hall of Famer, and maybe the impact you've had on them?
Well, it means that we're doing something right, and hopefully we're doing things that the younger generations can follow. And for me, I had guys prior to me, Art Shell, Forrest Gregg. Now you got Walter talking about. I know the first time I met him, he had watched videos that we had put together. And the cool thing about it now, he just got to do. One of the new Hall of Famers going in this year is Joe Thomas for the Cleveland, and Walter Jones with Joe's guy. So it's kind of like now Joe, it was like me, and then Walter watched me. Now Joe Thomas watched Walter. So that's the great thing about it, is the generations watch each other, and it's a real thrill when Walter shared that with me, and to hear that about Walter.
Can't let you go without talking about the finger. Tell us about that injury, how that happened. And
that was an accumulation over the years. It doesn't hurt. I can still make a fist. I can still lift things. I can still grab the golf course. So why go through another surgery? It makes for a great conversation piece. You wouldn't have asked me anything about it if it was straight and right. If it was straight like this.
Right.
But no, it like the main thing is it doesn't hurt. And if I had it fused, I wouldn't be able to make it. It would just kind of stick out there straight, and I can still do the things I need to do with it. So it's all good. Doesn't look very nice, but it's still good. Still works. With 9 grandkids, what do they think about that? That's going to be a cool trick, right? They're used to it. They just still kind of look at it, but they're good with it.
Well, before we let you go, how can people follow you? How can they, again, get some more information on your foundation, maybe get involved with that as well?
Yeah, so MuñozFoundation.org is our website for our foundation. You can learn everything about it. I'm on Twitter at Muñoz, at Anthony Muñoz, HOF. So come to our website and see what we do, and we can use all the help we can get touching those a lot of those young people that we do every year. So, Mike, thank you so much. This was great. Appreciate it.
I appreciate your time. And again, you're doing great work. And again, I know your mom is certainly proud of the man you become. And again, what you're doing in your community. I can't thank you enough for spending a little time with us here today. Wow, great to have another Pro Football Hall of Famer join us here today. Anthony Muñoz, great guest. And our thanks to Kristen Johnson with the Anthony Muñoz Foundation for helping arrange that. Good story, great stuff. Again, we appreciate his time here today. We appreciate your time for watching, listening. And again, we remind you to subscribe to our podcast and also check out CLNS Media Network, other great podcasts out there as well to enjoy. Well, we'll see you next time. Another great edition, another great guest comes your way very soon. It is In the Front Row with Mike Vaccaro. Have a great day, everybody.